One of the great things Alamo Drafthouse does is they show older black and white films, or just older movies in general. Like they're doing a David Lynch marathon, but I watched Whatever Happened to Baby Jane. I never heard of it. I never seen it. I said for $2.22 because I have the season pass, I will buy the ticket. Was it worth my time? Let's find out. Chase Lehocky here with the Blue Futon reviewing Whatever Happened to Baby Jane. What's about pretty simple premise. You have a younger sister and an older sister. At the time Baby Jane was young, she was the star of the family. The dad was just all about her and just making her just the starlight of attention. The older sister kind of was more with the mom, and the mother's like, you'll get your spotlight one of these days. And it does happen. She's a famous actress. And every time she has a clause in her movie, her sister has to be part of another movie with the studio. But her sister now, Baby Jane, isn't really the greatest actress. But now a horrible accident happens to Baby Jane's sister. She's wheelchair bound, and now Baby Jane has to take care of her. And now just horrific sisterly love is going to occur. I say sisterly love. It's some torturous stuff. So do I like this film? Absolutely. This is a class A, just freaking psychological thriller that I don't see if they make it nowadays. Like, if I would to remake this movie right now, would it be hard? Absolutely, because yes, this movie is made in 1962, but it does talk about 1917, 1939, and then yesterday. So you do kind of get the correlation of what is happening with this accident and going through this timeline. Even though in this day and age, there's no cell phones, internet, things like that, so it is harder for it to be a remake this day. Today, I would have Olivia Colman play Baby Jane. I think that'd be perfect casting. The older sister, I don't know yet. Maybe like a Jane Foster, or not Jane Foster, Jodie Foster, or someone like that. And I think it would work really well with this just craziness. And instead of having it like, Jodie Foster's character or the older sister would be in the basement somewhere and it can't get out. You still have the neighbors. You still have the other aspects of it. Or like now you would have like no legs whatsoever instead of a broken back. So I think it could work and it would be a fun premise overall. So with this movie, it has some twists and turns that I did not see coming, especially at the very end of the film. It's something that like once you watch the movie and the credits roll, you're like, you slap yourself in the face. You're like, how did I not see that? How did I not see that? Maybe because I was so invested in these different characters and what was actually occurring on screen, especially with the bigger British man, the neighbors, the two sisters, the cops, and things like that. And I just think it's a fun freaking movie in black and white. Bette Davis and Joan Crawford in this movie. Bette Davis actually won the Oscar for being Baby Jane. Absolutely. She has to play a psychopath, someone that's mentally effed up in the head, and it completely works on all front. It is a longer-ish movie. It's about 2 hours and 10 minutes. And it is long. And sometimes you do feel the runtime to an extent. But it does then go, oh, snap moments where it's like, okay, what's going to happen here? Then it goes somewhere. And you're like, okay, what's going to happen here? And it goes somewhere. Yes, there might be some issues I do have with the neighbor, right? I do feel like that could have been more fleshed out because how it starts off with knowing these neighbors is how the older actress used to be like a very famous actress and a lot of love stories and things like that. And it was like a mother-daughter relationship and being next door to them. And I do think they could have fleshed out a little bit more. Could they have fleshed out the maid as well? Sure, but that character was supposed to be more for a oh snap moment when something does occur. And when it does occur, you're like, yep, it's going to happen. And yes, it is more of a PG-ish movie. They don't show the violence. It's very much implied what happens to a lot of these characters' death. Beat him up. There is one kind of brutal scene where Baby Jane kicks her sister while she's down, and you're like, oh, she kicked a doll or something. So it's like a oh snap moment. She really kicked this sucker pretty damn hard. The look of the movie, fantastic. The actual directing is really well done because there are some great scenes in this movie where you're just like movie magic without the CGI. For example, there's one scene where she's singing in a mirror, and you have the bigger British guy playing the piano, and the camera is basically in the mirror. Of course, it's going to be like weird mirrors happening behind the camera or in front of the camera to make it look like you don't see the camera. But it's so much easier to do it like nowadays, where it's like, oh, post production, erase, 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 erase. Yes, it might be harder because it's like you got to make it look like it's not fake. But here, they didn't have that technology. They didn't have that luxury of being like, oh, let's just like, you had to be more creative back in the day. And I think that's what I think we're missing in movies nowadays. It's the creativity of having stuff on camera, in frame, and not have to be like post production, post production, post production. The ending, bonkers. And the ending completely works for that just bonkersness of it. And that reveal at the end, it was a kick in the face. Like, I did not see it coming. Even, like I said, it's one of the ones where it's just like, how did I not see it coming? But when it happened, you're just like, oh my God, what was I not thinking? I wasn't thinking, maybe because I was so invested in these characters and what was going to happen next to the sisters, to the British men, the British men's mom, the neighbors, the cops. And there's some funny things at the end about cops of like, kind of not doing their job. And it's also like when watching these older films, like I said, nowadays it'd be like cell phone, internet, blah, blah, blah. But it was just, I'm going to say easier, but you just look at the technology back in the day and you're like, damn. Like I said, even when like you're looking for someone in LA, you have it on the bowl or whatever, you're just like, oh, we're looking for XX person, X convertible. But you don't have cameras. You don't have like CCTV. Like, of course, you don't have CCTV, but you have some walkies. But it's not as simplistic as we think it is. But whatever happened to Baby Jane, you walk in the movie, you're like, what is going to happen? What is this actually about? Then it turns to a psychological, daughter-father relationship, sister relationship, things that happened in the past, just angst through in and throughout. And man, I think if they made this one and they remade it, but not make it like too grotesque or just like absolutely like almost not verbatim, but have the new technologies and have a smart way of doing it, I think this could do damn well at the box office and maybe win some Oscars. So maybe I should write the script, right? So Whatever Happened to Baby Jane will receive a 4.5 out of 5 with Futons, which equals at 90%. So let's see the critics and user scores gave this one. Did I say Jonah Crawford? It's Joan Crawford. 90% with the critics, 52 of them, 91 with the audience with over 25,000. Critic consensus. Whatever Happened to Baby Jane combines powerhouse acting, rich atmosphere, and absorbing melodrama in service of a taut thriller with thought-provoking subtext. Yes, yes, yes. 90s, 91. Chase out here with the Blue Futon. Like, comment, subscribe. Don't know things Bluetopia. You Blue Futonians. Thank you for watching. From a great down. Watch us stay tomorrow week. From here for every single freaking one of you. Peace and love, peace and love. And have you know, where is Baby Jane? Those Baby Jane doll. Baby Jane dolls. You can buy one for $3.25.